Alrighty. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's event, Building Empathy Between Housed and Unhoused Neighbors. This is a live virtual learning event hosted by Peace Through Action USA. My name is Chris Wolonsky, and I serve as Director of Programs here. I'm honored to facilitate this conversation tonight and deeply grateful that you've chosen to spend this time with us. Tonight, we are joined by some special guests. We have Christine Chestnut, who is the Housing and Homelessness Manager for the City of Salisbury, Maryland. We have Christy Richardson, who's the Community Support Manager of Wicomico County Public Library. And we have Susan Getka, who's the advocate and member of the Maryland Food Bank Speakers Bureau. I'm also joined tonight by one of our team members, Haley Miller, who's an MSW candidate and Peace Through Action USA intern. So before we get started, I'd just like to introduce you to our organization. Peace Through Action USA inspires and equips everyday people to increase safety, belonging, and peace in their relationships and communities by cultivating compassion and strengthening constructive communication and conflict resolution skills. We now would like to thank our strategic partners, Broadview Church, who made this event possible tonight. As supporters in our work, we are profoundly grateful for their vision, dedication, and commitment to the pursuit of peace. Broadview Church's support in our work also includes being our local partner in our Community Peace Project concept in Calvert County. For our guests in Calvert County, we look forward to staying connected with you through our newsletters and social media updates. We have an exciting remainder of the year ahead, filled with new opportunities to engage, learn, and take action. So stay tuned for that. Now, briefly, let's just go over what we'll cover tonight. We'll start with something simple in the chat. So feel free to drop your name, where you're joining from, and one word that comes to mind when you hear the word neighbor. This could be a feeling, a memory, a value, whatever comes to mind to you in this moment. We'll give it a minute here for everyone to settle in and introduce yourself. What comes to mind when you hear the word neighbor? Feel free to include your name, where you're broadcasting from. If you're with an organization, we're happy to have you with us, and we'd love to hear more about your work as well. Great. So we've got a great little group here. Oh, wonderful. Community. Yes. Friends, helpful, community, trust. Yeah, community is a theme for sure. Lending a hand, support, friendship. It's great to see these themes coming up. There's a lot of commonalities that we share here surrounding this topic. So let's go over what we'll cover today. We'll begin with a brief perspective-taking activity to ground ourselves in empathy, followed by watching some short interviews featuring individuals sharing their lived experiences with homelessness. Afterwards, we'll have a Q&A with our guests, and we will look at examples of empathy and discuss tangible ways to take action. We'll then review key safety considerations before closing with a short reflection and visualization activity. So before we start our discussions, I want to briefly introduce myself. My name is Chris Wolonsky. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I'm the Director of Programs and Partnerships for Peace Through Action USA. I'm a career-long educator and have been involved in nonprofit work and social service both domestically and internationally throughout my adult life. In my personal time, I'm a spoken word poet, National Poetry Slam champion, and hold a master's degree in communication and oral storytelling. I love what I do at Peace Through Action USA, and I'm thrilled to be here with you tonight. If you have any questions or have an interest in volunteering for peace, please feel free to reach out. I've included my email here at the end of this presentation. And tonight, I'm joined by 4 guest speakers, so super grateful for that, whose work directly reflects the themes of this event. First, I'm joined by Haley Miller. MSW candidate at Salisbury University's Graduate School of Social Work. She's in the process of receiving her master's degree right now, and she works as an intern with us here at Peace Through Action USA. Haley's work centers on community engagement, empathy building, and promoting mental health awareness. She's passionate about creating inclusive, trauma-informed spaces where compassion leads to meaningful change. Haley, can you please introduce yourself and explain what inspires you to speak with our audience tonight? Oh, Haley, I think your microphone maybe, or your, that's okay. We're having a little technical toughness there. Maybe we'll get back to you, okay? So we're going to move on to Christy Richardson. Christy serves as the Community Support Manager at Wacomico Public Library in Salisbury, Maryland, and she's currently pursuing her Master of Social Work at Salisbury University. With over 4 years of experience supporting the unhoused community, she's dedicated to fostering dignity, inclusion, and pathways to stability for those experiencing homelessness. Christy, can you please introduce yourself and explain what inspires you to speak with our audience tonight?
I didn't test my audio either, so can you hear me?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
good.
Doing great.
Awesome. Yeah, so I worked with our unhoused neighbors for about 4 years. Um, and what inspired me to speak here, Haley reached out and I just want to spread awareness that having conversations to break stigma is one of the most important things that we can do when talking about supporting this community. One of the things I've learned in my work is that meeting people right where they are is exactly what we need to be doing. So having conversations like this is what opens up that dialogue and inspires more people to move into community work.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing your experience. We're really grateful to have you tonight. And it's wonderful to have this range of voices with, a wide array of people who've had different experiences surrounding this topic. So thank you for joining us tonight, Christy. We're also joined by Christine Chestnut. Christine is the Housing and Homelessness Manager for the City of Salisbury, Maryland, where she leads initiatives to address homelessness and oversee transitional housing programs such as Ann Street Village. With a background in behavioral science and extensive experience in case management, outreach, and program leadership, she's dedicated to advancing dignity, stability, and long-term housing solutions for Salisbury's most vulnerable residents. Christine, can you please introduce yourself and explain what inspires you to speak with our audience tonight?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I'm actually a colleague of Christie's. Her office at the library is just down the street from mine. So we often work with the same people, which is it's an incredible collaboration that we have. Um, so what inspired me is, of course, Haley did reach out and asked if I would be willing to speak tonight, and it's like Christy said, we definitely need to. Get people to understand that everyone that we're working with, they're human. It doesn't matter why they're there or how they got there or what their story is, or those things do matter, but it doesn't matter. That doesn't matter as to how we should treat them. We should all treat them with dignity. Any one of us could be homeless, any one of us could be without a place to stay. Any one of us could be um, in that moment. And Christy would say the same. We've met college educated people living outside. We've met people who dropped out of school in sixth grade. There's a huge variety. So everyone has a story, and it's just important for me that we treat everyone literally the way that we want to be treated, regardless of what they look like or act like or talk like or whatever. And that's something that we pride ourselves on. Those of us that work in homelessness in the downtown Salisbury areas, we pride ourselves on just treating people completely with dignity and empathy and right where they are, and and figuring out what the best way is that we can help.
Thank you so much for your generosity in joining us tonight, Christine. We look forward to hearing your perspectives on this topic and really value the experience you bring in this field. So thank you for being here with us. Our next featured guest is Susan Getka. Susan serves as a member of the Speakers Bureau for the Maryland Food Bank, where she helps advance the organization's mission of feeding people, strengthening communities, and ending hunger across the state. She works to bridge the hunger gap by supporting food distribution through a statewide network of pantries and community partners. Susan, can you please introduce yourself and explain what inspires you to speak with our audience tonight?
Hi, well, thanks for the opportunity.
Of course.
Joined I joined the Speakers Bureau in the very beginning of their mission, and it was while I was still unhoused. I'm 72 now. I never thought I'd be living my senior years going through what I've gone through, but I did. I was a mental health advocate. I still am. Took care of my brother, found it demanding. I found a lot of food banks in that time, and that's what kind of brought me to the Food Bank Speaker Bureau with my brother as, I guess, leading me into this whole, situation or new part of my life. Um, and He died about 10 years ago. He suffered with schizophrenia. So, as a mental health advocate now, I'm the one who's advocating for myself as I've been housed, thank God. I was I'm from Baltimore. Through relatives and friends, I found my way to Aberdeen, different county, different part of the state, but I found affordable housing, so I moved to Aberdeen 2.5 years ago. So I've been in affordable housing in a mixed income community and healing from a lot of traveling, and I'm still paying off a couple of motel stays, waiting for this opportunity to finally show itself. But um, it's a it's a great situation. I've healed a lot since I've been here in Aberdeen, and in a peaceful apartment. After so much, I have a dog too, who's my emotional support dog. So the two of us did a lot of traveling and got a lot of help from people along the way. But I'm just hoping, I thought at this point I would be moving forward and continuing to build. And because of the political situation we're in, a lot of the benefits that got me back on my feet are probably going to be gone. I'm not sure. I don't want to, I'm still holding out hope that it's not going to be as bad as it could be. But I had, I got energy assistance, SNAP benefits, um, housing assistance, and medical assistance. And it was so incredible to get that. And I'm bracing myself, and I'm a little bit more prepared, I think, to weather the loss of those benefits. But I am hoping to share my story enough to help other people weather their if it if it does come about that anybody has that in their future. But to rebuild is incredible, and to heal from a long journey to find an affordable place to live. The food bank was great. The Speakers Bureau was a great experience, and through them I found you. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, we appreciate so much having you with us. So thank you for your
Thank you.
generosity and your time, vulnerability, and dedication to this cause, Susan. We're so happy
Thank
to have you.
you. Yes.
Thank you. So I guess I'll check in with Haley. How's your microphone doing over there?
Can you guys hear me?
There's
Yes.
Haley.
Okay, perfect. Okay, perfect. Sorry
Great.
about
We're
that.
happy to have you too. So can you introduce yourself and explain what inspires you to speak with our audience tonight, Haley?
Yes. Hi, guys. I'm Haley. I was inspired to center this event around the empathy between housed and unhoused neighbors after seeing firsthand how powerful human connection be in breaking down the barriers that a lot of unhoused residents experience. My motivation began whenever I had my internship with AHEC West in Western Maryland during my undergrad. I learned that housing is a vital social determinant of health and that stigma often prevents people from getting the support that they really need to get back on their feet. So I hope that tonight's conversation reminds us that empathy through listening, understanding, and even the smallest of acts of compassion can really help strengthen our communities. Was my goal.
Wonderful. Well, we're also grateful to have you here as well with us. This event was really special to Haley, and it was thematically something that she presented that we could do. So I'm really grateful for her vision for this event. And likewise, I would like to thank each of our speakers for being here tonight. Each of them brings valuable insight and professional experience to this conversation. And we've dedicated a lot of time soon in the session to learn more about each of their work. But for now, let's learn more about this complex issue. And I'm going to begin sharing my screen again here for us. So, why this conversation matters today. Across the country, we are seeing homelessness rates rise, and it's impacting all of us. At the same time, many of us are feeling a growing distance or empathy gap between those who have stable housing and those who don't. This makes it even more important that our responses are trauma-informed and rooted in compassion. Tonight, we'll also highlight opportunities for collective problem solving, how small acts can collectively build to make a difference in our neighborhoods. Next, we're going to watch videos to better understand people's experiences in our communities. So before we begin, we're going to look at our digital mise en place. So if you have any experience in a kitchen, you'll know what mise en place is. It basically is you're getting all set up on your browser to watch this video that we're about to share with you. So this is how it's going to look. Your browser should have both the Zoom meeting that we're on now and a web browser open on your computer. So you have two pieces there. Next, we're going to share some links in the chat, which I'll drop in the chat right now. And you're going to copy Control C, the link for the film from the Zoom chat. Okay, so I'll put those in here for us now, just so you have them all. Okay, and once you've chosen your video, you're going to turn off your Zoom camera and microphone. Please do not leave the Zoom meeting. So stay on with us. You're just going to turn off your camera and turn off your microphone, but you're still here because we want you. So please don't leave. So yeah, that's all you need to do. Don't hit exit. Just hang on, hang out. Once you've copied the link, you're going to paste that link into your web browser so that you can watch the video. And then you'll watch the short film, note your feelings and reflections, and then we'll come back and talk about that. We'll be ready to share your thoughts and reflections. And just turn your camera back on, your microphone back on whenever you're ready. And we'll begin talking about these videos that we just watched. So here we are.
So now we're going to directly hear from individuals experiencing houselessness. You'll choose one of these 4 short videos. Each are about 10 to 15 minutes to watch from the links that Chris shared in the chat. First, we have Rob, aka Brian, a man who is living with bipolar disorder. And then we have Marissa, a mother experiencing homelessness with her children. David, a young adult experiencing homelessness. And Makila, a woman of color living on the streets. These interviews are part of the Soft White Underbelly series where people can share their stories in their own words. As you watch, note what stands out to you, what challenges they describe, what emotions or insights come through, and what their experiences reveal about the systems around them. Once everyone finishes, we'll come back together to share reflections and discuss what you noticed. You'll have 15 minutes to watch the video of your choice. As Chris said, be sure not to close out or exit your Zoom meeting. Instead, stay here with us and simply turn off your camera or microphone and minimize the Zoom meeting while you watch the video. Then, once we're finished viewing, turn your camera and microphone back on and be ready to share.
Okay, so that being said, we're all going to take 15 minutes now to watch a video of our choice. So you get to choose whose story you want to learn more about. Rob, David, Marissa, Makila. So we're going to round up and let's say 15 minutes from now. So I am not a math major. But let's round up and call that 7:40. So we'll return at 7:40 here. Okay? So don't leave the meeting, just kind of microphone dark, camera dark, and watch a video, come back at 7:40 and we'll see you then. Does that sound good to everybody? If you have any questions, share it in the chat or feel free to voice it now. Otherwise, forever hold your peace. Pun intended. All right, great. Yes, you are choosing one film only. That is correct. So it's a choose your own adventure story. You've got one video to watch. All right. Ding, ding, ding. We are at 7:40 now. So I'm going to invite everyone to please rejoin the conversation. This is the time when you would come back, turn your camera on, turn your microphone on, and we're going to talk about what we've seen. Um, one of the themes that I just kind of want to uplift is something that Christine mentioned in her introduction about how there's just so many stories that are connected to this theme. And so we couldn't possibly try to give one summative video for everyone to watch together. Instead, we felt that it better reflects the subject to have a variety of sort of facets of the experience. So we invite you all to share that since some of us have seen different things than others in this session so far. So the video you saw is most likely different from the one that you saw that the person next to you saw. So, we're just going to open this up and kind of talk about and reflect on what we've seen. So, is there something you saw in your video that you're wrestling with, or maybe something that sparked a new idea or potentially a new emotion or thought process for you? And feel free to describe the video you watched if it's helpful. And this would also be a time when I would just kind of invite our guest speakers or guest featured guests to add their commentary. You're sort of the experts in the room that we're looking to for some perspective. So
Well,
feel free
I'll
to
start
reflect
on
with us.
Can you hear me? This is Susan Gatka.
Yes, we can hear you, Susan.
Um, I well, the first one I went to was the first person who's bipolar as a mental health advocate, but it brought up TikTok, and I don't have TikTok on my phone. I'm on my phone, so I went to David, who's a teenager, um, and I, there since I'm 72 now, and I don't have children, I felt like, I wish I could adopt him, get a foster child. He could be a grandson if I had children and grandchildren. And on the other hand, I heard him talking about having his ID stolen. So I felt, like a fellow homeless person because I know when I even rented in a friend's house, I had some earrings and a watch stolen. This was very early on when I was taking care of my brother. Um, and I always kept my things with me. So he was talking about staying clean. So I had a lot of a range of different reactions to what he was saying. Like one immediately wanting to, um, I wish I was in a situation where I was stable enough financially. I had my own place to live and I wasn't dependent on government funding and worrying about losing my housing now. But on the other hand, I identified with him as someone who has also been homeless and keeping my things with me. I used to keep a backpack every time um, when I would take my dog with me and we'd go to the grocery store to get things. I'd put my heart medication and all of my ID. So I, I listened to him talk about being in prison, being out of prison now at 18, and never having had apparently a, a stabilized environment to live in, to connect with people. You mentioned neighbors in the very outset of our talking with each other, and he was thrown out of the house with parents, and then had foster parents who abused him, and it was only someone who still wanted to stay clean and was apparently keeping his head above water. How deep the survival skills are of someone so young. Um, but I, you know, I wish with the lack of children and grandchildren of my own, I wish I was in a stable situation where I could foster or adopt. But it's difficult to listen to someone who apparently has been in survival mode his entire life and still has been able to survive traveling and being all over the place, um, to want to stay clean, take a shower. Um, but there wasn't a human connection that I heard him have that was positive or kind, but still he's surviving. I don't know how people, it's amazing how people can survive things. That's um, so young. Oh my God. But thank you for, giving this selection. I'm sure the others were also really good, if that
Thank you.
helps.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing, Susan.
I can go
We,
ahead. I watched the video with Marissa, the mom with the children, and I chose that video because I'm a mom and I've got children, so that kind of my children aren't little anymore, but um watching her interview and her trying her just you can see that the motivation that she has for keeping going is those children. Like that's what keeps her just pushing through and trying to figure things out. I cannot imagine living outdoors with my children, although I have had many clients that have done that, have figured it out and just literally lived outdoors. And but she had two things I noticed about her for sure that I see as a common thread in a lot of people that we work with that are unhoused is one, she did have one person she kept talking about as her uncle in her life that she could reach out to for support when she needed it. Like that he was a supportive person, although she didn't have um, parents that were alive or anything like that, but that there was one person, and a lot of them do have one person. It might be a friend, or it might be somebody they met on the street, or it might be Christy at the library, but they do have one person that they feel like that they can go to when they need something. But the other thing that I noticed about her that is a common theme is she's just grateful for where she is, even though it's not where she wants to be. The gratitude and the just the willingness to give to that she doesn't even have to give, but she's willing to give to help her uncle, that kind of thing. Um, Everyone that we interact with, I feel like would give you the shirt off their back, even though that's the only shirt that they have, kind of a thing. So that seemed to be a common theme when just listening to her, and then knowing the people that I work with. That's very common, and it's hard to think about that when you think about all these people that have tons of money that could give and wouldn't ever dare give, but then you have someone who's homeless without anything and would absolutely give you anything that they could, afford to give you. So um, that's something that we see a lot, though, in this work. It's just they are very generous when they can be, and very just kind of grateful, which sounds so bizarre, but grateful for, what they do have or where they are, even though it's not necessarily where they want to be yet.
Thank
is
you for
the
your lucid insights there, Christine.
I'm sorry, is the group at large kind of
Yeah.
encouraged to
Oh,
share here? Or?
100%, Dan. Yeah.
Okay, I was I watched Brian's story. Rob Brian, he was the bipolar man living on Skid Row, and these soft white underbelly videos, particularly, they always kind of hit me in this in a really interesting way because it feels like I shouldn't be watching it. They do the person who interviews does a really good job of kind of just allowing vulnerability, but on the person's terms, and so it feels a little bit. But seeing that, and I think I'm really aware of how we talk about homelessness when we haven't experienced it. And for those who haven't experienced it, that talk about it, or who haven't worked with folks, and either in your families or in your workplaces or what have you, and how actually listening to somebody who is experiencing it sort of evaporates so many of the kind of underlying, I don't want to call them prejudices, but perceptions that folks have about it, and all the way down to kind of Rob had this really intense self-awareness, and somebody who's in survival mode like that, who's dealing with addiction and dealing with mental health struggles and all kinds of things, that come along with that, that the self reflection and the kind of brutal honesty was just it. I don't think that that's something that comes up a lot, and something that people, there's this sort of, they're all the talking points and everybody's heard them. Even when people do like foundation work and there's funding and there's this kind of benevolent tone to it. I think there is this. I don't think we hear enough from people who are experiencing it, and how they want to talk about themselves and how they do talk about themselves and they share about themselves. And I feel like that's an important piece. It's kind of one of the reasons I came to this event. So yeah, thank you. I thought it was an excellent exercise.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I'm totally with you there. There is almost a like quasi voyeuristic quality to those videos sometimes where you're like, man, there's just so much emotional nakedness on my screen right now. I'm feeling like maybe I shouldn't have this window into it, but um,
I
it
mean,
is
that's
also special to have access to those stories. So thank you
Mhm.
for sharing your reflections, Dan.
I also watched the Rob Ryan video, and I think I was kind of impressed with him because he was so aware of everything he's going through and is so alert to what it is. And I mean, he's homeless, living on Skid Row, and I can imagine how terrifying that is for him. But I thought it was really I mean, I agree with you, Dan, where you kind of get a mixed feeling when you're watching these videos. And with him, I didn't like feel bad, but I was like kind of impressed that he was in such a situation, but he was able to be so aware of what the situation is and knowing the steps he's taking and knowing what he wants to do in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that, Ezra.
I was wondering if any of I listened to Rob, aka Brian. Um, I'm hearing uh, the stories. It seems like drugs are involved in most of them, but I've recently found out that the number one reason for homelessness is supposedly is domestic violence. I'm wondering if that was brought up by any of the other people sharing their stories. Did anybody bring that up?
Yes, I'm sorry. I had trouble unmuting myself. I watched David also, Susan, and yeah, he was beaten by his mother and father or foster parents or adoptive parents. I wasn't quite clear about that. From a very young age, really abused seriously. I too was struck by, and I hear echoes of this in the description of the other videos, that David just really didn't have anybody on his side, it felt like.
Yeah.
He did say he had one friend back in New Mexico, but he hitchhiked back and forth between New Mexico and Oklahoma, where he had a grandmother that he stayed with sometime. He found his biological mother, but that only lasted a week because she was using drugs and kicked him out. Um, I mean, honestly, I was impressed that he seemed, he wanted to stay clean. He
Yeah.
wanted to sleep in a clean place. He wanted clean clothes. Um, as Susan noted, he kept a big backpack of his things with him all the time. He's only 18, and I gathered that it sounded from what he said that the video was made in 2019, and I really found myself wondering what's happened to him in the years since. It just really was really hard to watch.
Yeah.
I watched David as well because and I chose his video. I work, with the unhoused population every day, and I always say that I never want to work in youth homelessness. That's why I chose his video because it is such a hard population to work with because it seems like that's the population that you cannot find resources for when they're under 18. So many things require a parent signature, so many things require a guardian. And when they don't have that, you can't get them into a shelter. No shelter unless it's a youth shelter is going to take them. And when he said that he's from a rural area, Christine and I live in kind of a rural area, and when we get a homeless teen, where do they go? There's one shelter that operates right now that takes youth under 18, but it's kind of a process to get them into. So a lot of the times they're just couch surfing, and they kind of fit into that population of the unseen homeless because they're on someone's couch, they're sleeping in their car, they're trying to stay and lie low because what happens? Do they become a ward of the state? Do they get taken away? Do they get put into a foster home that mistreats them? It's such a hard demographic to work with. And when you look at that, he stated he wants his GED, he wants a job, but he doesn't have his identifying documents. How does he get his identifying documents whenever he doesn't have parents that are willing to help with that resource to get him his ID, to get him his social security card, to get him his birth certificate? It's just teens that experience this are almost set up to not get ahead from the very beginning. And so it's one of those populations that's just heartbreaking. And when you watch and you finally see someone make it out of it, which Christine, she runs Ann Street Village, and it's a transitional supportive housing program, and she has some young adults in there right now, and she'll tell you that is a population that is just when you get them in there, you're so happy because the road to get them there is so long and hard.
Wow, thank you for sharing that, Christy. Those are some barriers I had no idea existed. So thank you for kind of giving us that window into that lived experience of people. Oh, hey there, John, Dad. I think your microphone is having a little bit of issues. I see you talking, but it's not coming through. So maybe there's an audio thing um, happening there. Oh, still can't hear you. Oh, this is the archetypal son and technologically.
Can you hear me?
Yes, gotcha.
Okay, good.
Yes.
So
There you go.
I watched the video about David, and I kind of got Christine's vision here. I looked for some like motivation in this video. I looked for like resources, move forward attitude. Um, a lot of these messages on futuristic goals. I mean, I heard he wanted to move forward and get his GED and get a job. I think the disconnect is the resources that are available to these individuals lack the ability for them to move forward. So, one big thing too was a little bit about family, and I think unity is so important. Having that structure around you. And they lack that continuity of family and unification and collaboration and neighborhood, and they're kind of like on their own. But I did get a sense of determination. He actually, I think at the end, thanked the gentleman who was interviewing him and said, "Thank you for allowing me this time to share," which to me shows that as we are people, regardless of where we come from, what our backgrounds are, what our bed looks like or our clothes look like, we still want the same things in life. And providing those resources really these individuals, whether it's
You're cutting out a little bit.
awareness, determination, resources. I think, what you're doing tonight is a perfect example of getting the message out there and, helping people kind of get out of from under the stone and kind of look around them and see what's out there and what people are struggling with. They still want to move forward and live. I mean, they still want to, coexist in our world and be a part of society. And they're raising their hands. And I think, Christine, you kind of hit it when you said there is an ability for people to kind of capture that light, but yet they don't have the support system. And Susan, I think you mentioned that too. They don't have the support system. They don't have the family. They don't have the structure around them to bring them forward. But they're still thriving and they still want to move forward and live. It's just a different way of life.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It's
You're
great
welcome.
to hear your perspective. Thank you. So I'm just going to uplift some of the comments from the chat too. So we've got Lisa shared, I watched The Woman with Kids. Any one of us could become homeless at any time. Medical bankruptcy is a common occurrence in the US due to our terrible healthcare system. I think homelessness is about our systems and not about individual choices. Just as many of our mental health issues in our country is about housing, food, and financial insecurity. And M commented, same. I reflect on how my parents struggled and how luck, family, and connections kept my family from finding themselves in Marissa's position. Terry also mentioned, I watched Michaela's interview. Yeah, I'd love to hear some thoughts about Michaela's interview as well. I was impacted by her situation of abuse and rejection from a young age. Her search for a way to feel better caused her incarceration and homelessness. There was never anyone who she could count on and make her feel accepted and wanted. This hurts her to this day as an adult. My thought is that all of us can help just by being compassionate human beings who are willing to listen and offer encouragement. And Dan noted, hearing about the other videos, a theme that keeps coming up for me is how much anyone's housing situation relies on the social safety net, community support network they have access to. Yeah, that seems to be echoed with everyone who's shared so far. That isn't a really notable theme among everyone's reflections. And Bob also casted some light on the issue in the chat by saying, it's important to acknowledge that the primary cause of homelessness is one's lack of sufficient income, any income to acquire housing that is affordable to them, or in the case of minor aged youth, inability to obtain housing on their own due to their age. There are plenty of people with mental illnesses and addictions and other health conditions that are housed. That is a really great point, Bob. Thank you for sharing that with us all. Haley also mentioned, I found that too, a common theme with a lot of the videos were the lack of their social safety net needs being met. So did anyone have any other kind of reflections from their video that struck them? That maybe they'd like to share or just sort of uplift?
Well, one thought I had in listening to connections, and one thing I've experienced is, mentioning I don't have children, but I have had dogs, and the current dog I have, he was looking for food before, so I had to give him a little bit to eat. But my dogs have also been a connection for my brother, who they adored my brother. He suffered with schizophrenia, and that was one thing that brought love into his life and has done the same for me. And I've been, when Jane Goodall passed away, and I listened to so many videos and watched her connection with nature. And since I've found a place to live, it's in, it's not kind of isolated, but there are grounds to walk around. And I've been taking photos, and connection to nature is something that can also either help or, it's a next step. Um, and I know a lot of people that for me, it was a battle to make sure I always had money to keep my dog and make sure that he had food, and he's still doing well. He's thriving at 14. But a lot of people will stay on the street with their dog and not go into a shelter and give them up.
Yeah.
That one thing I think is a powerful tool to survive through and recover from across the board for me at least too, and for my brother. That I was so glad I was able to give that to someone who suffered with schizophrenia, and people with mental illnesses all too often wind up unhoused, um, really lost. And, nature and animals can really draw you back into um, whatever it is they're drawing you back into from nothing, from no contact.
Yeah.
Just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That is interesting, the ways that we are sort of woven into the feeling of belonging by
Yeah,
nature.
yes. That's one of the things that as a part of the food bank speakers bureau, belonging was a theme of one of the few times so far I've been able to participate. But that's exactly right. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Um, So Allison mentioned in the chat something from some of the videos that reminded me of previous clients was the complexity of substance use. A lot of public discourse around substance use poses it as a moral issue or personal failing, but in reality, so often it's a form of self-medication and a symptom of social issues and past or current trauma. Um, yeah, most definitely. Yeah, substance and how we frame those larger narratives socially really impact this issue. So then now we kind of wanted to open this conversation up to our featured guests, and really kind of invite our listeners and our audience tonight to feel free to ask some questions. If you'd like to just shoot a question, whether that's in the chat or out loud as we've been doing, feel free to go for it. Okay, so one just came in through the chat from Bob, directed towards you, Susan. He said, "Do food banks generally offer pet food?"
Generally, I haven't found that to be the case, but I did actually find my parents and a friend of mine who I was caregiver for got Meals on Wheels, and Meals on Wheels was one organization that put her at least in touch with, would bring a bag over. But I haven't found that yet. I did look into a pet on wheels, or not, no, not, it was a pet food bank. And I never, well, of course, I've got a, dog with digestive issues and no teeth. And so, a lot of the kibble that I could get a 25-pound bag through maybe one of those sources didn't work for me. But I have seen it here and there, but nothing consistent to go to. That would be something to ask about. Thank you.
I just want to say, Christy just put in the chat, our local humane society will give pet food for the
Yeah.
unsheltered folks. They've done that many times. I personally have picked up food from there because our humane society is kind of out a good ways outside city limits, so you're not going to be able to walk there. But when I have had someone that's been unhoused and has an animal, I can just call and they could just tell me to pull up the back door and give me a bag of food. They've been great about that.
Can I just on that note, and when I trained with the speaker, when they started the Speakers Bureau, one of the big questions that I had, I lost my car along the way, couldn't afford to rebuild the transmission, and I was still taking care of my brother. And I haven't had a car for over a decade. And transportation, my question to the food bank was, if the food is out there and I don't have a way to get there, I'm not going to spend $20 on an Uber ride back and forth. I'll spend the $20 on food. So transportation, getting people who are homeless helping with that. That's a big connection. I think that's um, a real problem for myself as well. But how do you get outside of the city limits, or how do you get to a rural facility to get pet food? And so transportation is a key link that is not um, not thought of a lot. It's over there. How do I get there? So there are, and I guess that's why I wish I had better answers, because I think there's probably a lot out there. But I stopped exploring after a while because I knew it was just too far to go, or it was impossible for me to get it. But very appreciated. But so I stopped exploring for that too. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, transportation is a huge issue, as Bob noted in the chat. Car repairs are expensive and insurmountable.
All you have to do, when I hear people say all you have to do is, it's there. I said, well, that's a big gap, between where you are and where it seems so easy to get to, and it's impossible. It's like, it's a handicap to me.
Right.
It's made it very difficult, but transportation was one of the things I brought to the Speakers Bureau when I started out.
So I have a bit of a personal question here. What actions can everyday people take that make the biggest impact surrounding this issue, by your estimation, with your experience in the field? This is to our speakers, our guests.
Joining existing efforts. Um, Everyone has these like wonderful, lovely, giving hearts, and they want to do a coat drive or like a glove drive or all of these things. And it's so lovely that they do, but there are so many organizations that exist that need those donations and already have that population. They know where they are. And so finding and joining those groups, and if you're good at social media, maybe they just needed more help leveraging their campaigns, or identifying churches that are willing to start serving in the local shelters, um, kitchens, and those kinds of things, mobilizing the community and putting them into these organizations that we have, and just taking that out there. If you have a heart to do it, there is someone out there who is ready to receive you.
Kind of
Thanks
to
for sharing.
echo what Christy's saying is too, is what Christy and I often talk about this is don't reinvent the wheel. Often the unhoused population has so many hats and socks and gloves that they have to leave them because they can't, there's a plethora of those, and they are needed, but they are needed again with those agencies that say that they need them to be able to hand those out. And instead of trying to reinvent the wheel and say, oh, because I get calls all the time where people are like, hey, can you tell me where the encampments are? I want to go out there. I'm like, absolutely not. Do not do that. Do not walk into someone's encampment that you don't know with anything, even if it's well intended or it's you have the right heart because you're trying to take food. That's one of the things that you can't do. So partner with those agencies that are doing that, because I don't know one agency ever that will not accept volunteers. If you can't volunteer your time, volunteer your money, your donations, call and say, hey, call an agency that you know does work and say, what do you need? Don't just assume that you know what they need, because there are things we had a whole thing with every agency. There was so many socks, brand new socks, that we're still having massive boxes of brand new socks. Wycomico County will never need socks again, but there are things that we do need. Christy specifically has um she's working with those who literally live outside right in our downtown area, that come to the library for the resources that she offers. So she does need sometimes hats and coats, but she also needs other things like pop top ready to eat foods that don't need to be cooked or heated, kind of a thing. And so if you know someone in your area that does any kind of work of whatever it is, not just unhoused people, but anything that you're willing to support, call them and ask what they need is the bigger thing. They're never going to say they don't need anything. That is that is not true. But cooking food, especially this time of year when The holidays rolls around, everybody wants to be generous, and we are so grateful for that because none of us could do what the work that we do without volunteers and donations. But just ask for very specific things. If the most you can do is donate 5 cans of Pop Top food, well, then some agency's going to take that 5 cans of Pop Top food and give it to someone that needs it. So it doesn't have to be big, expensive things. It doesn't have to be big, hundreds of thousands of dollars. Every little $5 thing can make a difference in someone that's hungry, someone that's in need, those types of things. So I would say just call and ask the agency that you want to help and see how you can best help them. Maybe do a food drive at your work, if you can't volunteer time. This is the time of year that food bank shelves are empty, and we know with the pending cuts that are coming, every food pantry is going to need additional support. So that would be another way to be able to help. But I would just call the agency specifically and say, hey, what do you need? How can I help? And they're going to give you a list of things for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. I'm really grateful to learn about these ways we can take action. I did want to just there's two more questions, so we're gonna try to move through them quick so that I can respect everyone's time here, because we did promise to get out at 8:30. But I did want to uplift these two questions. So Dan shared a question. For any of the experts, how is the impact of public policy direction, either nationally or locally, felt and adapted to on the front line in this field? Are there any notable changes, for better or worse, you can think of?
Oh, so right now, I think what I'm dealing with is the just like crisis management of when you think about this population, they're also watching the news. They're also absorbing the information that is being shared, and they are at the bottom of the firing squad of what all of the policy is impacting right now. And it's not only the policy, it's the language. I live next to a train track, and I am so sorry if you hear this train, but it's about to be kind of loud. Um, so but anyway, they are like right at the heart of this terrible language that's on the internet, this terrible language that's on the news. And then they come in, into the library, and they're like, we're not going to have food stamps because people don't think we should eat, and what are we going to do? There's going to be riots in the streets. Like, you have a person who is experiencing mental illness, and then it's taking them from that whatever ground level they may have to just elevate it. And I am seeing the amount of just crisis incidents that are happening right now because of the panic and the fear and just the unrest among the community is it's heartbreaking. It's difficult. I think every day this week something bad has happened within them, and it's just like, I leave at the end of the day and I want to cry because I'm like, oh my gosh, what do I do for them? So it's just, I don't know. I don't have a good answer for that other than it's just chaotic.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And my dad asked, how about peace through neighbors groups? Gather individuals who can provide support, guidance, and mentoring to the individuals and provide that connection that is missing. Where do they go for this? Christine chimed in, I would locate whomever is providing street outreach services and ask if he could organize a group to tag along. So thank you to our guest speakers for sharing your perspectives. This was really an invaluable opportunity to learn from you. So thank you for that. Um, so now we're just going to kind of take a look at some examples of ways that people have taken action in their communities. So we're just going to do a little bit of case studies. We're going to look at some ways that people have made an impact. So that could be either on a personal, community, or systemic level. We've kind of covered some of that already in our discussion, but I want to give just a few examples for us to maybe serve as food for thought. So first, we're looking at street roots civic circles. These are essentially small group dialogues that encourage genuine connection between housed and unhoused neighbors. This was going on in Portland with Street Roots. They're really kind of active outreach organization in Portland. I remember living in Portland and getting brochures and stuff like that. Another opportunity was a project led by the Moth, called the Economic Mobility Project, and it used storytelling to connect housed and unhoused residents. Another opportunity was the Block Project. This happened in Reno, Nevada, where Reno built tiny homes on residential properties, pairing housed neighbors with unhoused residents based on compatibility. Another example was called Photo Voice. This was the Photo Voice project in El Paso, where the Opportunity Center for the Homeless gave cameras to unhoused individuals and empowered them to document and share their lives. And then this isn't a Peace Through Action USA, but it's a Peace Through Action UK experience, where in Brixton, residents transformed a parking space into a small community parklet using pallets, plants, and a table. So these are just ways that we can, learn to take different actions in our communities. So I just kind of wanted to prompt you to reflect, what can we learn from these examples you just saw, some of the subjects that were brought up by our featured guests, and what ideas do you think could work in your own community? Do you have any thoughts about how you might take action following this session? If you do, please share that in the chat. We'd love to see your thoughts and reflections. And so next, as we come to the close of our session, I just want to lead us into a short visualization exercise. I want you to picture where you slept last night, your room, your bed, the place you feel safe. Now, imagine not being able to return there. And let that sink in for a moment. How would that make you feel? What would be different about your day-to-day life? Take a few breaths to sit with that thought and notice any emotions or insights that arise. So really, we're just trying to invite you to step into another person's experience for a brief moment. If you were in David's shoes today, how would your night look? To deepen empathy and awareness, there's so many challenges that people may face in our communities, and there's no short supply of ways that we can help. So really grateful for our featured guests to share those ways with us. But in the meanwhile, really kind of use this opportunity to feel some compassion and have that guide you towards action. Next, we ask that you please complete this post-event survey. This helps us to gauge our effectiveness and refine and improve our future programs. So I'm going to drop that in the chat here for you. So if you could please fill that out, that would be really helpful for us. We really are grateful for that. And just to answer your question, yes, the case studies we will share as a resource in our follow-up message with everyone. So you'll have plenty of case studies to review. I also want to uplift Terry. She said, I participate in a feeding ministry in our community. We provide hot meals 4 days a week to the folks that have financial need, many of whom are unhoused. We are beginning to wonder if this program is enabling a dependency. What are your thoughts regarding feeding ministries? Does it encourage people to become dependent? And we had some conversation in the chat around that. Being able to depend on one another, and dependency is an interesting question, So yes, most definitely. The names of those programs I can drop in the chat here for you. Yeah, we'll share that in our follow-up. So yes, if you could please complete that survey, we would be so grateful. And next, if you feel moved to support our work, we always welcome financial gifts of any amount. Every contribution makes a difference. We're a nonprofit organization that relies on contributions from the public. So right now, I'm going to also drop our giving page into the chat. So if you're inclined to take some action on that, please feel free to give your gift of money for peace. So that is also in our chat here. Community connection is built through action. As we begin to close, I invite you to take a quiet moment to reflect. What are you taking with you from tonight? Maybe it's a story, a strategy, a sense of possibility, or just a new lens to bring to your everyday life. Drop a word or phrase in the chat, something that captures what you're walking away with. So we'd love to see what what effect this session had on you. So feel free to share that with us here. And now, Haley and I would like to sincerely thank our incredible guest speakers, Christy Richardson, Christine Chestnut, and Susan Getka, for their generosity, wisdom, and the deep grounded work they bring to their communities. Your insights tonight were a gift, and we're so grateful you were part of this conversation. So thank you for being with us tonight.
Thank you. It was really a, a great opportunity. I appreciate everybody listening and contributing. And
Thank you so much, Susan. We're so grateful to have you. That was really wonderful to hear your perspective and insights. And to everyone here, thank you for showing up tonight with openness and curiosity. We're so grateful to have you with us. Remember, even small actions can ripple outward. So take one simple step this week that builds belonging, and know that you're not doing this work alone. We hope you'll stay connected. And until next time, take care and keep building bridges. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right. Yeah, I just also want to mention that Christine shared her contact in the chat, so that's there. And thank you, everyone. Gonna say good night now, and enjoy your warm, cozy beds, and feel gratitude for that. All right. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.
Bye now.
thank you.
Bye-bye.
Nice to meet your dad, Chris.
Thanks for being here, Dad.
Oh, I turned off. This was Kathy talking and turned off my video. But see you next time.
Okay, sounds
Okay.
great.
Bye.
All right, bye. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Bye.